Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are returning to Gary VO. Watched a video of his a week or two ago, something like that, about AI taking over the voice acting industry. Now it seems like he's got a similar sort of video here, so I'm curious to see what this one's about, titled AI has already won, but the VA industry is blind. Let's see what Gary has to say.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Gary. I'm a voice
Hey,
actor,
Gary.
I'm a gamer, and I'm a PhD in AI stuff. Today, I wanted to talk about how the voiceover
AI
industry seems completely blind to the realities of AI, whether unintentionally or intentionally. And it all starts with this guy. This is J. Michael Collins. We know him as JMC. He is an absolute legend in the voiceover industry. He's produced demos for some of the biggest names in voiceover, and he sponsors some of the biggest conferences in voiceover. I really respect the guy, and not only because of his industry experience, but also because he happens to be my mentor's mentor. So when
Whoa, hold on. The lineage. Joe Zija. So wait. I can't get
because he happens to be
can't get
my
the right frame.
mentor's mentor.
J. Michael Collins mentor Joe Zija, I guess, huh? And oh my gosh, I'm blocking. That's so disrespectful. I'm so sorry. J. Michael Collins, the mentor of Joe Zija, who's a mentor of Gary VO, aka Gary Young. Hopefully I said that right.
So when he posted an article he wrote about how AI is failing in voiceover,
Look at this freaking robot. What?
I just
The robots are failing. Check out my latest blog to see why. It's like AI generated robot is all decrepit looking, getting drowned by money, his eyes are rotting or something. What the frick is going on here?
had to check it out. And after reading it, for the most part, it's not a bad article. A super quick summary of what he wrote. Essentially,
I mean, if you don't mind, I'd like to just take a look really quick at that.
and after reading
All right, what do we got here? AI voiceover's fatal flaw. Let's get something straight up front. Anyone who says AI isn't good enough to replicate most voiceover tasks don't understand or hasn't heard the technology. It's pretty flipping good and can maintain quality longer than it could before, though still not with enough consistency to be on even footing with good pro voice actors. But it is a workable technology that many are integrated into their business flow, which terrifies voiceover artists. It shouldn't.
it, for the most part, it's not a bad article. A super quick summary of what he wrote. Essentially, he looked at some data and found that humans prefer other humans to machines. What a shock, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward stuff, and I wouldn't even debate that because
I'd like to read that one too, though. I'm just curious. Like, I see the freeze frames or the screenshots or whatever you want to call it, and I'm just too curious, man. Let's see. The first flaw, as backed up by recent discussions with leadership in the online voiceover casting site space, is substantial data that now shows that even when presented with quality AI voiceover at marked down rates right alongside humans at higher rates on the same platform, uptake of AI voices is near zero over years of testing, with substantial feedback offered that once the buyer knows the voice is artificial, they no longer want it, no matter how good it may be. This dovetails with much of our own reaction to the technology in everyday life. AI-generated research papers are considered frauds or cheating. You can't turn in AI homework, and even Google's new Veo 3 AI video generator, while impressive, still lives firmly in the uncanny valley. I'm looking at my watch and waiting for the first fully AI hit movie or TV series.
It's pretty straightforward stuff, and I wouldn't even debate that because based on my experience in AI, it's generally true. But there is actually one major problem with his article, and it actually has nothing to do with what he wrote. It's the fact that the cover art he chose for his article was made by AI. So let me just make sure you understand the irony here. His article about how AI is failing in the arts uses AI-generated art. Man, these videos just write themselves, right? And if you need proof that the image is generated by AI, you just have to look
No,
at
it's
the
pretty
image.
obvious.
The face isn't symmetrical, the antenna aren't symmetrical. This is half an eyebrow, here's an extra eyebrow, here's a phantom finger. The hands aren't the same, the bills are all inconsistent, and some of them have really weird shapes and sizes. This is 100% generated by AI. And for the most part, this is a perfect example of how blind the industry is to the success of AI. Because as a scientist myself, I completely understand the importance of collecting data, setting up experiments, controlling variables, but I've also been in science long enough to know that the real world pretty much never follows the rules that the data was built on. So JMC, as a voiceover professional, knows how the industry views AI and can cite the relevant data and other aspects of the voiceover industry. But when it comes to the visual arts, he's just a member of the general public like everyone else. And when he needs an image, he doesn't commission an artist, he just goes to Google. And I'm not accusing JMC of generating this image. As far as I could find, this image has existed at least since 2024 on some LinkedIn article. But it doesn't change the fact that when it comes to convenience, he has no problem turning to AI. In fact, I highly doubt he even knows that it was AI.
I don't know. I think there's a high chance that he knew that it was AI, and he's like using it in jest and or irony and or just thought it was a silly picture to include. Like, I don't think it's that deep, really.
Which is actually part of the problem.
Hold up a second. Bro's inner Joe Zija just came out right there. Maybe I'm just crazy or something, but no, I don't think I am. I swear, man, he said it the exact same way.
It is a feeling. It is actually part of the problem in a lot of ways. So when we start...
Yeah, in my opinion, that's pretty close. Not the exact same, but close. So I will consider that like a special Easter egg sort of thing.
Because AI has become so successful that the industry professionals don't even realize how successful it's become. And by the way,
What does it say? Americans use AI in everyday products without realizing it.
I'm not choosing JMC as an example to pick on him. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm using him because I respect him. Because if someone as venerable and respected in the voiceover industry as JMC can turn
Bro is literally holding up a freaking lobster.
JMC can turn to AI, even if subconsciously, so can literally anyone else. And this needs to be a major wake-up call for the voice actors to change how they argue against AI. Because we can argue all we want about the faults of AI, that AI is theft, AI isn't as good as humans, or whatever
Not that blue
legal
sky,
arguments we want. Argue all we want about the faults of AI, that AI is theft, AI isn't as good as humans, or whatever legal arguments we want. But none of that matters if the audience doesn't care. And this is especially true for voiceover. Because while JMC is correct that humans will generally seek out other humans, that fact doesn't matter when they don't care. And even for things like anime and video games, it's a very, very small percentage of people who actually check who the voice actors are. This isn't Hollywood in the early 2000s. No one's lining up to see the latest Will Smith movie just because it features Will Smith. That's not how the voiceover industry is structured, and if you ask me, nor should it be. People just...
Yeah, I agree with Gary. Obviously, a lot of the VAs in the English dubbing industry seem to think that they're like the most important people on the entire project and that everyone should worship them, and they try and act like, oh, I'm literally that character. Like, that character is literally me. Very egotistical, bizarre stuff.
Just want good games and good shows. And maybe it is true that AI isn't as good as humans yet, but the image used by JMC wasn't particularly good either. I already pointed out all the mistakes, but it was certainly good enough for him to use. And you'd be silly to think what elite industry professionals think is good is the same thing as what the general public would think is good. And frankly, it's not like the viewers or the gamers prefer AI to humans. JMC isn't wrong when he says humans prefer humans, and I'm willing to bet that a majority of the audience actually prefers humans to AI. But if
the majority, like, there's definitely come on, there's definitely people out there that actually prefer AI to humans. For sure, there's some people out there like that. But yeah, I think the majority don't. Or the majority prefer humans, you know. And actually, I want to like expand on something he was saying a moment ago about voice acting and how it's bad for the VAs if people don't care. If like people are using AI instead of like actual voice actors, because it goes beyond that. Even in some cases, it's not even that people don't care, it's that they literally don't like the VAs and they would even rather have AI over the VAs. So it's like it's like worse for the VAs than just being apathetic. It's like they're actively wanting them replaced by AI. Now again, I don't think this is the majority of people, but the VAs are having an increasing problem with this because of their own actions, obviously, similarly to what we just discussed a moment ago.
If this image demonstrates anything, it's that as long as AI is good enough, people will have no problem turning to AI. Especially if the alternative is the voiceover industry that they are growing to hate. And if the past several months of the video game voiceover strike has demonstrated anything, it's that the audience is finding more and more things to hate about voice actors. They hate our lack of...
Oh my gosh, Kit Harrison popped up again. We saw him like in the video image like a few minutes ago. I was like, not the blue sky VA. Of course, Kit Harrison's here again. I just want to break this freaking post down and point out how terrible it is. But I've already done that twice, so I'm not going to, I guess. I'll just say, like, if you haven't seen me break down why this post is so bad, at least in my opinion, I'll just link that video in the description, or like one of the two, or maybe both. I'll link both down there. It'd be way too redundant for me to go off on this again, so let's just continue before I get lost in tangent about this freaking terrible take.
Empathy, they hate our hypocrisy and our nepotism, and they hate our blatant arrogance. So maybe we as voice actors should stop and rethink how we approach the AI argument. Maybe we should stop arguing the ethical and moral quandaries of AI, and maybe we should stop blaming AI for all the problems in our industry.
This is actually a great point, and credit to Gary for being a VA with this level of self-awareness. Very rare thing to see. and very rare to see one admit this sort of these sort of issues with the VA industry. But it's a very interesting point too. It's like on one hand, the VAs are trying to virtue signal to people about like why you shouldn't do this, but they're like some of the last people who should be virtue signaling, because a lot of the people doing that are in fact terrible people. So it comes off very hollow and obnoxious.
Because maybe the real problem in the voiceover industry isn't AI. Maybe it's us voice actors. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. But before I end the video, a few people have asked me.
I think he, sorry to interrupt him again, but I want to add on to this really quick before I lose my train of thought. I think he's making a really good point here. If the VAs were more like likable, and it doesn't mean they need to be like fake, like over the top, like trying to be likable. No, they should like be genuinely good people. But instead we're getting like genuine scumbags that try to pretend to be good people and then like virtue signal down to others. It's like really, like I said, obnoxious. But the point being, if so many of them weren't like that, the AI thing wouldn't even be as much of an issue with them, because they would have more fan support. Like they actually initially had, specifically with like the collective work refusal, they had a lot of fan support in the beginning of that whole thing, and then they ruined it all by their own actions.
Me about what projects I've been in as a voice actor. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. But before I end the video, a few people have asked me about what projects I've been in as a voice actor. So check out The Precinct. It's an awesome cop sim about taking down gangs and, more importantly, giving out parking tickets.
Wait, he's in that game? I actually saw this on my Discovery tab on Steam. I'm pretty sure this is the one I saw. I was looking at this.
Finally, I just want to say thank you so much to all the gamers who checked out my previous video about AI and voiceover and the arts. Regardless of what direction the voiceover industry goes, I hope that together we can one day shape it into something that the gamers can be proud of. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I will see you all next time.
Hey, great video, Gary. It's crazy seeing myself up there with Asmongold and Tectone too. But yeah, I think this was a really good video. Obviously, like I questioned a little bit about like that, what was the guy? GMC? What was the guy's name? I'm sorry. The one guy used like the robot thing. I don't know if it's like that deep, but I think like aside from that, I think the points Gary made were extremely good points, like about the larger issues in the VA industry and how a lot of these VAs are harming themselves and the industry through their actions. And yeah, I think he's spot on about a lot of that stuff. And like I said, I definitely respect him for being a VA that's willing to talk about this stuff and voice his opinion on these issues, because so many VAs don't. And they never will say anything like this at all. They never want to have any sort of self-awareness, and or they're afraid of getting on the wrong side of the click, you know, etc., etc. So once again, great job, Gary. Also, I would like to apologize to Gary and to you guys, the viewers, because like I'm still getting used to this reaction format, and I think I'm probably not pausing in the best spots, and I'm interjecting maybe in like the wrong times. And I don't mean anything bad by it. Like I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. I'm just really not used to this style of video yet. So hopefully I can get better at that, and like finding where it's more appropriate to pause and comment and all that. So yeah, also consider checking out Gary at Gary Young VO on YouTube and on Twitter/X. I will link socials of Gary in the description, and I will leave it there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate you. See you in the comments and in the next one.